Both amendments are within the amounts that were originally contemplated within the contract already, but this is to authorize the next phase to move forward. The project mission, the purpose of the project is to address our increasing capacity needs and combine the 5 city public works departments into one campus, maximizing efficiencies and improving operations to better serve our community. There's been 3 council decisions on this project to date. The first was back in October of last year, when council authorized us to move forward with the alternative contracting method, as well as authorize the site within the Juniper Ridge location, just to the east of the Pacific Power site, east and between Clears and Talos.
Just putting in the presentation there.
Yeah.
It's just
Sorry. What we've done to date, we've done a number of meetings, workshops and such with stakeholders and city leadership. In doing that, we consolidated a common vision for the project. There's 3 primary categories that are incorporated into the vision: supporting a supportive work environment for our employees, providing community benefits to the community that we serve, and then also supporting council goals around sustainability by creating a regenerative campus. The scope of the project includes approximately 30 acres. There are a number of activities that occur on the site to support the work that the departments do. So there's a large yard that provides parking, both covered and uncovered, for the fleet vehicles. We have a decamp facility, storage for outdoor materials, including all of our sanding and rock piles that serve the city, and then a decamp facility for taking care of the waste from our vehicles. There are also 3 buildings on site. You enter the site from the north and will head to the headquarters building first. That's the public access. Our headquarters building is a 3-story facility. It includes our administration facilities, meeting spaces, both for the department as well as for public meetings. We have the utilities water lab within that facility, and then we have space where our crew workers to consolidate into one location with their crew meeting rooms, excuse me, and then support spaces for all the crews and all the employees that work on the campus as a whole. So a lot of the efficiency is through consolidating functions and really creating a more active workplace and engaged place. The second building on site is our warm vehicle storage building, shops and warehouse. So there are a number of fleet vehicles within our fleet that require a temperate environment in order to prevent freezing. And so this is a large facility to house those vehicles and keep them from freezing, to be able to service the community. We are also consolidating shops that we currently have at our different facilities into shared shops for all of our crew workers. And then we have a warehouse facility that will more efficiently store all of our goods that we utilize throughout the city. And then the last building is our fleet maintenance facility. This will be relocated to the site, services all of the vehicles that will be on the site, as well as all of our other vehicles that the city has, including police and fire vehicles. As part of our goals for the campus, we have a pretty strong focus in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And from the start, we selected partners to join us on this project who were also committed to community benefits and diversity, equity, inclusion. To date, our sub-consultants make up 4% are Oregon certified firms, and another 5% are firms that otherwise would qualify, but they're either certified elsewhere or just haven't gone through the certification process. And as we move forward during the next phase, we will be finalizing a diversity, equity, inclusion procurement plan, working closely with procurement and legal to further our ability to bring on subcontractors that are certified subcontractors in the area, and encouraging more Central Oregon certified contractors to become certified In addition, from a sustainability lens, the project is pursuing LEED certification. And we have also enrolled the project in the Energy Trust of Oregon's Path to Net Zero program. We will be using the 1.5% for green technology that is required by the state for all capital work to go towards photovoltaics, which will help energize and provide the energy consumption for the site. And we're also planning not only for today's electric vehicles that we have today, but also planning for the future as our fleet converts to electric vehicles over time. From a schedule standpoint, what we have done to date, we've gotten through these first two phases, which we call a criteria design and target budget. We've landed at, and today we're here to get authorization to continue and complete the design work required to do this project. We'll then be coming back to council, planning to come back in the springtime to get authorization for our guaranteed maximum price, which will complete the rest of the project. So right now we're only authorizing the design portion. And with the design portion, also the pre-construction services, as well as our owner's rep contract to continue. To date, we've authorized approximately $3.5 million of work to be completed, which will be that portion of our contract will be completed at the end of the calendar year. And what we're requesting is approximately $10.1 million additional to complete the work as outlined in the issue summary. And wrap it up with questions. Okay.
Just if there's any feedback on if you want to go on the presentation, this is for the full council Wednesday.
I think probably the whole council is going to want to know the history of why this is needed. Because we've gone through it a couple times, but good to get a little bit of the history and also what's happening at the place that we're making. It's not what it is. There's just pictures of our existing facilities and all.
And Russ, maybe you could tag team with Joe and we typically look at the why from an operational perspective. So maybe have like an intro to Joe.
That's great.
And just to commend Joe on all there's been a lot of staff involvement in this too. We have a very aggressive approach where we've had multiple open houses and field trips, and
It's significantly changing going from our existing.
because we are moving this office environment is really kind of it's our first entree into what a modern work environment looks like. It's not this in City Hall. So
It is like handling office and everything.
So there's a lot of hoteling, shared spaces. We're not, no longer are the days where you just have an office. It's a very different work environment, a lot more. So everybody enters through the building. There's not crews are here, management's here. It's everybody kind of in one environment working together, so that there's a lot more opportunities for those sort of organic collaborative kind of moments.
Unisex bathrooms, unisex locker rooms, things like that. So it's like 10 generations of
Yeah.
And what's the revenue source for this layer?
It's all being sort of actually I'm not like Sharon.
That's what I
But Jeanette's here.
Jeanette's here, sorry.
Sharon's most common line.
Yeah, so the CRP has the initial funding in it in the current biennium. And then the whole project as a whole will be baked into the upcoming biennium and funded with the various sources of revenue of the users of the campus. Practically speaking, there'll be debt funding to actually, pay for it. And then the funding of the debt service is what we will contemplate. And there'll likely be an amount we have to bring back, in the June timeframe to cover the Kirby neighborhood amount, but we'll bring it back in June once we have a better idea of what the exact spend is through this fiscal year.
So the next item is the Purcell Boulevard Extension, proposed contract with Taylor Northwest. And then also an overview of the entire NEP and Purcell project.
We share it for. I'm Drew Wells.
Okay. Didn't mean to slow my time down. Yeah.
I'll just say while you're bringing that up, just to frame it up. You're gonna hear from Drew on December 7th and again on December 21st. That's intentional because one of the projects is WSR funded, and we had to separate that to make it obvious which one was and which one wasn't. Yeah, it's like. Clean water state revolving fund. It's a figure that we use to help fund, so. What he's gonna talk about tonight is not DEQ funded, and what you're gonna, for today, you're gonna cover the whole thing, but on the 7th, it's not DEQ funded, and on the 21st, it's what is.
We're split.
Yes. Not for the purposes of this.
No,
But the two council meetings, yeah, 7th, 21st.
Don't tell me in a few years acronyms are known.
Yeah.
The reason CWSRF and Water State Refund revolving fund is on the intersections because there's sewer and stormwater improvements, which is what's eligible. The extension only has water, which is not eligible. So that's the reason why there's some has the funds and some don't. So they get one.
Yeah. You'll hear about all of it here right now, but it'll be 2 visits to council in December.
already on Zoom. Fair option. Plug into.
Should you go to the separate link? Okay, I'm sorry, this is my first meeting I'm supporting by myself. So
It's going to be fine.
Is it on the Q drive, Drew?
It is, yeah.
Dawson, would you mind jumping to it? Because
No,
you're
no,
already
no.
connected.
So you folks, what the other good thing about when we talk about the extension is it's we work with St. Charles, and they donated right away for us, which allowed us to do the extension and make it, and otherwise we have to wait for it to happen. So that was very good news. And then the third part of that is that existing section, Trent, the team talked about.
Yeah.
To the north, what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty well attended, yeah. There was only one really upset person who was mad at his fucking right. Okay.
You did present it, right? Did you put it up?
Yeah, we shared it at the open house, but I think he wasn't the also the one that said, I have 5 teenagers at home, where the hell gonna park? It sounds like a new problem.
Continue about the street. Yeah. That's our hope.
that's the biggest problem. He's doing pretty good.
Well, and I think when we're ready to pull it up, that was something whenever this briefly at agenda review, right before a couple hours ago, Melanie asked about the open house. And so whoever's present, I guess, Drew, if you're presenting, if you could share some of the feedback from the open house. Or if there's relevant feedback to share.
Yeah,
That was,
I know it's been a lot of very involved neighbors.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
All these menus. All right, so Wells Project Engineering Infrastructure Planning Department. Let's get this, so infrastructure improvements. I guess this is important to know if we modify that for some large extension construction contract. Wow. Here's an overview of the project location. On the left, City of Bend, that boxed area, you can see on the south, there's Neff Road, north is Putnam Market. Cells, the dash lines are up through there. There's 3 separate components to this project. We'll call 3 projects really. The intersection project in red at the bottom there, the extension project, and then what would be completed. Those would be completed by our construction contractor, and then the purple line north there is where we're striping bicycle lanes, be completed by city staff. There's a little more detail on those different sections. Oh, thank you. Slide yet. You can see some more detail on the intersection there with the different sections. Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, so I'll just highlight some of the things on this, like in the extension area that we're building, where we're building it in so the bike lanes are, and the cars are the barrier and the buffer between the bike lanes and the travel lanes.
Nice.
So where there is on-street parking, you're gonna see some cross sections that really highlight that separation.
Yeah, I might drop that slide altogether. So first project, or the first biggest component of this project, is the intersection project, which is reconstructing the Netherville intersection. There's a lot of issues at that intersection. It's a outdated temporary signal. It was never meant to be permanent. Now we're finally replacing it. There are ongoing safety concerns at the intersection due to that, the capacity issues with long queues and congestion down there. Proposed improvements is to totally reconstruct the intersection, replace it with a traffic signal, which was a selected alternative from the alternatives analysis in 2019. And we compared it to a roundabout. And in addition to the reconstruction of the intersection itself, there is some sidewalk infill west of Purcell. So there's some continuous sidewalks from Purcell to 8th Street on completion of the project. And in addition, there's some significant utility improvements within the intersection for sewer and storm.
It was just, the slopes are too great and just some topography issues there. That was not functioning.
Maybe that's a question for council. We previously presented the comparison of a roundabout versus a signal.
Yeah.
Do you want that re-talked about, or that decision was made years ago? Do you want those highlights of why that roundabout was not chosen? Kind of a question, I guess.
It'd be nice to know the history of.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's at a, I mean, I get it, it's at a very, it's
Yeah.
like this, so
Yeah.
putting a roundabout makes no sense,
Yeah.
but
We can at least mention.
yeah,
Just as we are around the first one. So,
we are big on roundabouts.
We love
Although
them.
would love to know why we didn't. throw that about again.
It was a question, we'll be shocked, I'm sure. So here's the overview of the extension project. So there's three subsections to this. There's the extension section where we're building new roadway, 1,000 feet of new road, electric standards with on-street parking, parking protected bike lanes, adding crosswalk, coordinating running crosswalk that's marked, and also replacing the city water main on that section. On top of that, there's the modernization section, which there's existing road there, however, widening to add sidewalks, some parking on the east side of Purcell and the bike lanes. Those will also be parking protected where there is on-street parking. And then there's also marked pedestrian crossings that be lighted as well at full moon, which two there, as you can see. And we will be striping for bike lanes from full moon south of the intersection with the continuous bike lanes from Highway 22.
buffer bike lanes. You got something.
There is, yeah. So in this section, there's the whole, they're all buffered. Excuse me, yes, they're not park protected though. But yes, they are all buffered. Let's see. So in addition, so that's the extension portion of the project.
Sorry to interject here. As Russ mentioned, so we've worked extensively with St. Charles to acquire this land with dedication. So there was a lot of partnership between the city and St. Charles to get that land for us to even do this project. Otherwise, they would have done it when they did their master plan development, of which they have no plans at all, timeline. So this really helps the city complete that roadway corridor.
Did I discuss that?
just say it was a partnership. I'd say we basically said, well, you guys can build it on your dime, and we can build it if you give us the right. We'd rather build it.
Say they were really nice. Okay. It's the extension portion of the project. The third project in this area, which won't be completed by our construction contractor for the Nethershore Intersection Improvements Project, completed by city staff, is this striking bike lanes between Butler Market and where they currently end near Jackson or Indigo Street. You can see in that dashed line area. And so this provides a lot of connectivity between all these services, the schools and community parks. Definitely a important gap to connect for provides a little connectivity. You can see the light green is what's been funded or planned today, or funded to date, and dark green is planned, not yet funded, and there's the existing trails you can see on there. So it provides a good connection between there.
In the hospital, mentioned that provides another way to get emergency vehicles to the hospital.
Yeah, definitely.
And it pulls a little bit of traffic off 20. And it's paint, right? It's just paint.
Yeah. That's all
That's
there's room for.
Yeah, paint. Here's a presentation mode more.
It's pedigree
Yeah.
south, right? So this is a big floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of bikes.
So this purple section here is where we'd be adding striping bike lanes, wouldn't be impacting the existing curbs or street, simply striping and removal of on-street parking. We are looking at adding, or the city's looking at adding some improved crosswalks, improved crossings at Perry Lane, as you can see there, and at Jackson Avenue, and potentially looking at some improvements at Wells Acres and Purcell intersection to see if there's improvements we can make heads and bikes and some camper.
But no traffic, we're not putting any traffic on there.
No. It's a four-way stop already today, so it was some enhancements with paints and striping.
Yeah. As far as the feedback, that's where I'm not sure how much to discuss with open house feedback, any feedback as far as this. There's concerns from a number of people with the safety, how this is going to impact the safety of the corridor, use of traffic, and also the move on-street parking.
This is basically a city project, what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
With the streets crews.
And this is 100% response to what you guys are hearing, and we're hearing from the public. They're worried about the increased traffic along the stretch. And of course, it's a collector. It's always been a collector. It's just been acting like a local.
Yep.
There's a lot of driveway frontages, but it's time for it to grow up and be a collector street. So we're gonna start treating it like it, which means striped bike lanes and enhanced crossings.
And this was where Robin might be able to speak as well, but I can also get freshened up on things. So I don't know if you want-
Yeah, Robin will be there with you. Yeah, she'll talk about the work that the Transportation Mobility Group has done in reaching out with the Mountain View Neighborhood Association, identifying, we can't do everything that they're asking us to do, but we're doing quite a bit here to help address some of the city concerns.
Crossings, and that was,
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Some city crossings.
Are the crossings just painted?
They are looking at a raised median in the middle at some of these locations as well, something. It might be more than striping. They have their way.
But I think the important thing is that as a collector on the TSV for a very long time, so we're just now implementing it.
So with this project, particularly the intersection, because of the grades, we're required to fully close the intersection so we can construct it. The constructability challenge. With that, there's significant impacts to the public. Because of the need to close this intersection, we did utilize the best value procurement methods of contractor, which balance a blend of qualitative selection based on proposals and price proposal as well. Taylor Northwest was selected as the highest score, and they did propose what they call a siren response plan as an alternative approach to helping get EMS through this intersection. And simply put, they'll have somebody on standby to throw a trench plate over their work and let EMS through as soon as they get a call. We'll be working, coordinating with EMS on that and to the Northwest so we can ensure that's successful. So because of this significant impact, we have a pretty robust public outreach effort. We presented 2 open houses and 2 United Mountain Neighborhood Association meetings to date. We do have another construction open house plan for late January 2023, and we'll continue our outreach in multiple methods, as well as working coordinating with all the major stakeholders in the areas, hospitals, schools, the EMS, and then the heavy impact nearby residents and businesses. You can see the map on the right. It's a pretty construction schedule, fairly simple. We're going to have the extension in the intersection constructed concurrently, with the extension being completed near the end of May. The city would be striking bicycle for the bicycle lanes on that north section, so that that's complete before the extension's open. And then finally, the whole intersection is expected to be open at the end of July. Current budget, the project, multiple funding sources, split over the 2 parts of the project that are constructed by our contractor selected. The council will kind of change the council presentation, but those would be amounts.
Yeah, you got it up there. I mean, you'll see the same slide twice. You'll see on the top of the right-hand column, it says on tonight's agenda, which is December 7th, it's the extension contract. So that's 2.296 million. And then on the 21st, we'll just take that on tonight's agenda and it will apply to the intersection construction future contract amount, which is the 4.2. So it's the same information regardless of the date it becomes. It isn't one. We're just asking for one contract on the 7th, another one on the 21st.
Extension. So
Intersection.
because it's eligible for
Yeah, so DEQ gets.
CFQ, I mean.
Exactly.
Years.
Yeah, so DEQ has to review it for concurrence, so we're good, as they are going through their review period, we're going to do 1 contract, so we can get going on the extension. Approval, bring the other contracts on the 21st. It's a little bit of a piecemeal approach, but that's the best way we can execute this to get the contract to go.
And we'll like preview that maybe for people that this is coming back at the next meeting, just so you know.
It was, yeah, you heard me say it was designed in 2016. We delayed it at the beginning of COVID, and everybody was asked to look at the budgets and some staff. And then there was some property on the corners that had a federal tie to it, so we couldn't do anything with it. It's been years in the planning to finally get to it. So we're excited to.
It's gotta be like 30 to 40 years on the temporary seat.
Yeah, the temporary, yeah.
Finally getting to taking care of the temporary seat.
Yeah.
Before any questions about that, our next item on the agenda is the in-conduit hydropower feasibility study, a contract with Jacobs Engineering Group.
Right, and I printed out a couple extra issue summaries if anybody needs one. They're all there if anybody wants it. Thank you. All right. So yeah, my name is Austin Somhiggy. I work with the EIPD project engineer, and very excited to share with you our proposal for in-conduit hydropower feasibility study today. As was mentioned, this is a contract for consultant services to perform this study. So a little bit of a project background, 2 main documents that are really helping drive the interest in this. That's number 1, the Community Climate Action Plan, or CCAP. That was adopted back in 2019. That adopted a set of strategies and actions to help guide the city and community achieve fossil fuel reduction goals. And specifically, A couple of those goals up there is to reduce community-wide fossil fuel use by 40% by the year 2030, and then continuing on to achieve a 70% reduction by the year 2050. So in an effort to help support these goals, we're requesting to study opportunities where pressures within our water system could support the generation of electrical energy and overall improved efficiency of our system. The other major document that's guiding this is the Integrated Water System Master Plan, which was adopted 2021, last October. One of the elements of the Integrated Water System Master Plan is the Capital Improvements Plan, which identifies a series of projects to help maintain our water system or expand our water system to serve future and current customers. Specifically in that master plan, it recommended further analysis of in-conduit hydropower, where it might be feasible to work in conjunction with some of these projects. So this study will help identify opportunities where we can be more efficient with our water system and taking on and consider in-conduit hydro when taking on projects identified in the master plan. I will mention there has been some previous hydro studies in the past. Over a decade ago, during the time of looking at the water filtration facility, but a lot of things have changed, and I want to point three big things out. The studies were not done to this proposed level of detail. The studies were done prior to having an existing facility, which we have now, and the climate's very different, both politically and administratively. There's a much more streamlined process for this to work through all the permitting requirements. And since then, we have seen a lot of communities just like us, actually adopt these reduction goals that help drive this. So with that, I want to show, just a quick overview of our, a schematic of our water system. We have our intake facility up at Bridge Creek near Tumalo Falls. As you can see, that water experiences a pretty significant drop in elevation. We have a really unique water system here in the city of Bend. And this just shows a nice visual showing the large amount of elevation change that we get, not only from the intake facility to the water filtration facility, but also to other lower points of our distribution system, which, that's water pressure, that's potential energy, and that's what we're interested in considering. So a little bit about in-conduit hydropower. Just wanted to help define this a little bit. In-conduit hydropower is utilizing existing pipelines and existing water uses, and that's really the crux of this whole concept. We're taking advantage of existing water usage. We're not requesting additional water usage. We're just trying to best optimize what we are currently undergoing. So with that, we're proposing to develop feasibility concepts both at the Outback filtration facility and other locations of our water distribution system. We have an array of pressure reducing management devices throughout that system where hydro might come in handy. The results from the study, we're going to be considering that in context of our Outback facility plan. When those planning efforts get started, we'll have an overview of the bigger timeline here in a second, but also other locations within the water system. So ultimately, we'll review the report's findings and provide recommendations to City Council and the ECC and look for directions on whether or not we want to explore undergoing some of these projects. So here's an overview of the water milestones in the upcoming larger projects that we're taking on in terms of our water plan. You'll notice that top bar up there, that's a Townsite Act. That is, we just formally applied, submitted this application, and this is the process to acquire the additional 50 acres that's needed for improvements identified at our Outback filtration facility. This is anticipated to take about 2 to 3 years. So that's kind of, we're showing this larger, span there. And meanwhile, what we want to do is be prepared. So I'll point you next to the Outback facility plan. That is planned to begin mid-2023. And that's where we're going to take previous findings from our Outback siting study and further detail out our plans for expansion of the Outback filtration facility. Additionally, in 2024, that's when construction for the large transmission main associated with the Aubrey View Distribution Improvements Project is scheduled to commence. And basically what we're trying to do is prepare ourselves so that when we start that planning and that effort, we know how would hydro be feasible when we get into that planning. So, in conduit hydropower feasibility will evaluate opportunities to improve the safety, efficiency, and reliability of our energy consumption, both at the Outback site and throughout the water distribution system, by claiming pressures that are already existing and being managed within our water system. We hope to build on the findings of this study to help guide our Outback facility planning and our Aubrey View distribution engineering as we move forward. And this is a point where I kind of want to take the opportunity to talk about, hydro. It's a want. It's something that we think is, could have huge benefits for the community, but it's not a need. We have a lot of needs identified in the integrated water system master plan, such as expansions at the Outback facility to prepare us for, fire events or really upgrading our resilience of our water system. We think hydro can really help support not only those efforts, but larger community climate action plan efforts. But again, recognize this could be, a little bit sensitive subject for a lot of groups, and it's a big want, but it's not a need. So just trying to really, make that distinction.
But what's driving this whole conversation is really the pre-treatment at Outback. It's either hydro or another valve, which just reduces pressure. That's the outcome, but it's the pre-treatment that's driving folks.
Well, and I should have pointed this out before started here, and this is on right now because it's 248,000. So it's on the consent agenda for next week. We just did an agenda review meeting. We've got energy score, parking, the Gateway North. So we're kind of doing a more in-depth presentation here with the local contract review board. If it happens to get pulled from consent, we would pull this back up. But unless you felt strongly to do this as a standalone presentation next week, you're kind of getting the detail here. We would come back to council, obviously, with the results of the feasibility study. So there will be full council involvement there, but just the contract to initiate it. It's in the grand scheme of things, a fairly small amount.
And it's not saying we're doing it, it's just
Yeah.
that's the big thing.
Yeah, this is the where, how, would it work? So yeah, with that, I guess, like Kirk mentioned, the big point is this is not driving the additional acreage at the Outback facility. This is something we believe could really benefit the whole system, but not a need. So that I would be the project manager as representing the owner as the city, working under Brittany Barker, my principal engineer. And the selected consultant was Jacobs. They were selected on the typical qualifications-based process. We received only 2 proposals that were scored by 5 city staff members, and they were provided the notice of intent to award October 14th this year. Look at the funding. The proposed budget for this would be 284,000, so just shy of 250. We've been working hand in hand with the Energy Trust of Oregon over the past year. They've been a fantastic steward for this. They have re-upped their full potential account with them to the original 200,000, and they've earmarked away at least half of this proposed budget. So they're fully prepared to support us as a reimbursement if we do decide to proceed with this study. I guess just jumping back, we're confident in Jacob's ability to deliver on this. They have a lot of really good research and experience with this all over Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and the whole country. So, they're very hands-on and knowledgeable, and we really think they can help deliver a study that can both identify potential for hydro, but then also a roadmap to proceed with any of these, identifying permitting needs, engineering, cost analysis. That's a pretty extensive level of detail that we're looking for in the study. So with that, I'll just open it up to some questions. Threw a couple quotes up there. Main conduit hydropower is really taking a lot of momentum right now all across the country. A lot of communities and utility providers are seeing the opportunities of this. And it's just, one more way to help, achieve some of those climate action goals that we've set for ourselves. So.
And the technology is really changing.
Yeah.
And we did a tour out of the irrigation district. Potential and conduit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with this being on consent with the idea that like, no matter what, we are gonna need to do feasibility study and then we can, the community and council and all of us can actually look at politics and, cost and benefit of it once we know whether it's feasible.
Yeah, I see some work sessions with council after we get the results of this, trying to figure out.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to, if it's not feasible, it doesn't make sense to spend time on it. If it is feasible, it makes sense to spend a lot more.
Even talking to the irrigation districts, like if they're, it's not penciling the way it once did, but it still might make sense to us for a lot of different reasons, like resiliency and things like that. But that's what we want to study to show.
And I will say, to the comparison to irrigation districts, completely different context.
Right.
How you bring this power to market, what you do with it, it can have tenfolds of magnitude about the value. So irrigation districts, a ditch doesn't require that much energy. Our water filtration facility certainly does. Our reed pump station certainly does. So we have a different engagement with this.
Well, and also, we don't, it's not seasonal, right? This is water.
Yes.
It's all constant, it's all the time. And it's, there is no incentive. So I think the criticism from the environmental community, especially with irrigation districts, is, oh, you're going to try to maximize to get power. That is not the case at all. It's often the same.
And we've proven how we're taking water out of the river and how we're using it. So I think we're beyond that discussion now.
See if it's feasible and we can have all of these conversations.
I mean, as the engineers in the room, it's extremely painful to go out to Outback and just see all that energy just getting blown with the valve.
430 PSI.
It's really painful for us. So.
No, we don't get any sounds.
It'll take it out of stock.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You feel it very briefly and then you probably wouldn't.
Well, thank you all for letting me share this.
So I think that's the end of our agenda. So if there's anything else that you want to bring up, then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.